Story time about my girl here. A few years ago, it was pre-COVID, I think it was, like 2018 or 19. We were training. I had her on a long leash that was not my usual equipment. She was pretty far along in her training, so I trusted her to come back pretty well. But she flew to the end of the line. The rope that she was on, it was sturdy, but it still broke. Actually, I think what happened was that one of her jesses, which is a piece of leather with a slit in it, I'll talk about that equipment in a later video. I think it gave way at the bottom of the jess. So the leather sliced, and she got off of the line and flew out into the neighborhood and actually landed on a neighbor's house. This was before I had lure trained her. There's a couple reasons for that I won't go into, but she had already been fed quite a bit, and now she was up higher than she'd ever been, loose in the neighborhood on somebody's house, and I had to try and call her down. She wouldn't come down. She was interested, she would look at me, and I'm standing out there. I was in dancing clothes. We were about to do aerial work. So I'm in tights and a tight top and flip-flops, and I'm running down the street trying to see where she's going. And I'm standing there with my glove up, 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 screaming in front of somebody else's house. The person drives home, doesn't even notice, parks their car on the street, and any little thing could spook her at this moment. And if she flew straight, to someone's house on the other side of the block, I don't have a straight pathway through there, so I'd have to walk all the way around and probably lose sight of her. I didn't have any telemetry equipment on her either, because the plan was to not fly her free. But they everything went wrong. They parked their car and then decided they needed to be in their driveway. So they backed the car up next to me, then pulled into their driveway next to me, and they were the slowest to get out of a car that I've ever seen. Okay, and finally they noticed me standing there, and I'm like, my bird is on your roof. And there's some crazy people around the neighborhood, and they probably thought I was one of them. She might be going home. Home. She is home, but she has a shed over here. It's called a muse, and I'll talk about that in another video. I was hoping she'd stay in the background. Anyway, I'm desperately calling her down. Doesn't come down. Keeps looking at me. I'm even throwing stuff. I'm yelling at my friend go and get this equipment, go and get this equipment, because I'm trying to get her down with any means possible. So these people interrupt the situation, distracting her. Then the ice cream truck goes by. I could not make this up. The ice cream truck is super loud, drives slowly down the street, sees my friend and her daughter who are watching me trying to calm my bird down. What you doing? That perch needs to have the padding replaced, but it's fine. I make sure there's no sharp edges. So the ice cream truck decides to stop and offer ice cream to what is she doing? To my friend's child while I'm trying to get this bird down. This loud, noisy truck playing high-pitched, crazy music is now interrupting me trying to get my bird back. Eventually Charlie flew to another person's house, was sitting on the peak of that house, and then she just flew off to another street. I couldn't, follow after her. We jumped in the car, tried to just follow where we thought she went. We were looking out the windows. We were going slow. I had food with me, and I was terrified. I was terrified that I'd never see her again. I didn't expect to. And it was grief, it was like she had passed on or something, because I was and I felt so bad that maybe if I had checked the equipment more or something like that. and we couldn't find her. We couldn't find her. I was really upset. So my master falconer friend actually found me another red tail that had been trapped. It was trapping season. So he found me a male red tail who I did set up in here and was doing the preliminary training with. He was very difficult. He was having issues understanding that he could take food from me. But I only had him for a few weeks because, as interesting as all that was, this gets even more weird. My neighbors love Charlie. They love having her around. They keep an eye on her. They say hello to her in the morning. It's wonderful. I have the best, like, direct neighbors on all sides of me, like left, right, and up to the back of the yard. My neighbor comes to me when I'm coming home from work. At that point, we still had an office to go to. And she says, I think there's a picture of Charlie on Facebook. And she runs out to me and shows me on her phone. There was a picture of a bird perched on a light post with a crooked leg and jesses. It was Charlie. I knew the silhouette immediately. Somebody had posted her in like a lost pets group because she was peeping at people, and she was, the peep, peep, peep. She was looking for food, and she had these straps attached to her. So some random Good Samaritan posted on Facebook this picture of her. My neighbor saw it and came to me and said, she said, I know where it is, because I run and got equipment, and I was like, where is it? She's like, I'll take us there. We hadn't been here real long, but obviously we're friendly with all the neighbors. So she drove me to this school, because she knew, where it was. I think the person had posted where it was. She drove me to the location. Charlie is still on a light post. I think it had been posted at least hours ago, if not the day before. She was still on the light post. She saw me. It took her a minute to recognize me. She had been gone a month out on her own. I didn't think she could do it. Survive on her own for that long, because of her foot and all that stuff. She recognized me. I put food on a string, even though I hadn't Lord trained her yet. There were high schoolers in the parking lot in a car that were like looking at me like, what the heck is she doing? And then realized I was trying to get the bird down. I'm sure they didn't realize she was a falconry bird. They thought she was like a random bird, and I'm like trying to get the bird down. She came down. I threw the food on the string, like out from me onto the ground. She came down to it. So now I had her like a month later, about 3 feet away on some food. If I had spooked her, she wouldn't have done that again. So I got gradually closer and closer, kind of reeled the string in, let her eat. It was a big piece of food, which I did on purpose. I tackled that bird. I didn't care if I got bit or clawed or anything. No, I know how to hold wild raptors. Maybe I'll do a demonstration of that, that aren't trained or anything. And I just grabbed her and tackled her like a football player. I mean, gently. But I had her. I had her back. I had brought a towel to kind of wrap her in, and a hood, because I was hoping I'd get her back. I haven't talked about hoods yet, I don't think. But she finally was in my arms. And I brought her into the car again to be taken back here. And my neighbor was like, oh my God, there's a hawk in my car right now. And she had the best story to tell. We get all the way back. It's not that far, but we get back to the house, and I don't have my keys. And I realized I had thrown them in the grass when the bird came down because I didn't want anything to spook her. So we had to go back. We had to go back to the school where she had been found. We had to go back there and get my keys. I didn't have the keys to my house. She was still in her hood in the towel. I grabbed my keys. We finally come back to the house. I had another bird in her shed here, her mews, is what falconers call it. There was another bird in there. So now I've got these 2 red tails. So I set up an area for her inside. I wasn't gonna put her outside for right now, and I just sat there for hours and was so happy she was back. I could not believe that happened that way. So I got her back. I was really lucky. And this is why I started training her on the lure shortly. Well, obviously I started training her on the lure because I wanted to get her back in case something happened like that again. But while she was gone, I knew what weight she was when, I haven't talked about weight yet either. To know how hungry they are, to know how well they might pay attention during training, we weigh them, and we have to find the right weight that below that basically means they're hungry enough to be trained, and high enough means they're likely to ignore you. That's why when she had just eaten and then she flew up to somebody's house, she wasn't hungry anymore. She would have eaten more, but she wasn't hungry enough to do any work for it, so she didn't come down. I knew what weight she was when she got loose. When I brought her back, after a month, her weight was higher than that. Which means she caught something or ate something while she was gone. So now I knew she could hunt. She could hunt on her own. Doesn't mean she could have survived the winter or anything, but I knew she could hunt on her own. She had the capability to do it. So then I really started training her to fly free, do hunting and stuff like that. Because I knew she was able to with that foot, obviously, because she survived for a month. So that taught me something. I quickly lure trained her after that and made it very clear that when we throw the lure out, that means you are going to get stuffed full of food and you better come down for that thing. I hope I never need it to get her out of a situation like that. But since then, we've flown free. I have a couple videos of that. It's hard to get a video when you're like flying your bird like by yourself. But we've flown completely free. She's come back. We've had shenanigans with that too. But she's been a perfect girl for some of those flights. And it is so rewarding when they soar back down to you out of those trees. So she's knows even more stuff now. I'm not going to take her off of this line, the Crayons line, ever again in this neighborhood, because there's just no way to follow her. Where I fly her free, it's like a wide open field with a tree line. So like I could go across the field. I actually have had to do that once. I could go across the field and follow her in a straight line. My falconer friend also has telemetry that we can put on her foot to kind of like keep track of what direction she goes into. Also, if she got loose at my friend's farm, he's a falconer. If he saw her again, he could probably help her get down if she was hungry enough, back to the glove. So even if she got loose there, I would feel better about it than getting loose near my house. So that's the story of losing Charlie and getting her back. I cannot believe I got her back. I just treasure this bird. She's kind of a special needs bird, so I know all of her quirks and health issues. Oh yeah, so I had the other bird. I actually ended up giving him to another falconer, not my falconer teacher, but there was someone else who needed a hawk for that season, and just recently lost hers or something. So I gave up the little male red tail in favor of Charlie, and I've had her ever since. So that's that crazy story. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Oh my gosh, bug. Let's see if I can get her. I don't know what she's doing. Decided not to. Oh god. Fucking dirt bikes. Okay, we should be back after the dirt bike situation. Anyway, I don't want to say that. To just hot out here. Hi everybody. Fuck it.